Welcome to Everything You Need to Know About the Ascension of Humanity, the podcast where ancient wisdom meets modern science and spiritual evolution gets real. I'm Heather, an energy healer, channel, and spiritual coach with Divine Ascension Company. Each week, we're diving deep into the mysteries of human consciousness, spiritual awakening, and the profound transformation happening within us and around us. But here's the thing. We're not doing this with our heads in the clouds. We're bringing neuroscience, psychology, quantum physics, and cutting-edge research to the table alongside meditation, energy work, and timeless spiritual teachings. Because the truth is, the ascension of humanity isn't some far-off cosmic event. It's happening right now in the choices we make, the awareness we cultivate, and the healing we do within ourselves. Whether you're curious about how mindfulness literally rewires your brain, why shadow work is backed by depth psychology, or what coherence between your heart and mind actually means scientifically, you're in the right place. We'll explore practices like breathwork, meditation, and emotional alchemy, not as abstract concepts, but as tangible tools grounded in both spiritual wisdom and scientific understanding. And here's where it gets even better. In our bonus episodes, you'll hear from real people sharing real stories. These are the warriors, the healers, the everyday seekers who've walked through their own darkness and found their light. They'll share their breakthroughs, their struggles, and the resources that actually helped them along the way. Because personal growth isn't a solo journey, and you deserve to know you're not alone. So whether you're just beginning to question the nature of reality, or you're deep in your spiritual practice, this podcast is your companion on the path. It's time to expand, to awaken, and to rise together. Let's begin. Today's guest was the weird little kid who grew up to be a weird adult. Her words, not mine, though I'm sure most of us can relate. And she says it like the badge of honor it absolutely is. Jen Sankey is a tarot reader, Reiki master, crystal and angel healer, and lunar witch. And she has been in this world her entire life, not as a seeker who found it, but as someone who had never lost it. She grew up alone a lot, outside making potions with sticks and rocks, and with a companion she called the White Lady, a spirit who lived in one of the houses that she grew up in, who kept her company long before she had language for any of this. By 12, she had her first tarot deck, bought with babysitting money from the local Spencers. By 14, she was on her own, and magic became the thing that gave her something to hold on to when everything else felt out of control. She's also a published author. Her book, Manifesting by the Moon, is out now through Llewellyn, and it is exactly what it sounds like, and nothing like you'd expect. Over 120 exercises, spells, meditations, and activities that use the lunar phases as a map for intentional living. No rare herbs from Etsy, no overnight manifestation schemes, just the moon doing what she always does, and you finally paying attention. In this episode, we talk about growing up with gifts other people couldn't see, why the spiritual community needs to stop spreading fear about eclipses, the real difference between making a wish and doing the work, and how to actually use the moon phases, including what moon water is, how to make it, and whether it matters if the moon is even shining on it. This one is practical, grounded, and full of the kind of real talk that I love. Let's get into it. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode. Today we have a very special guest. Her name is Jen Sankey. She is a self-proclaimed professional witch, tarot reader, Reiki master, crystal and angel healer, and also a lunar witch, which I'm really excited to get into today. The lunar magic and manifestation that she's really all about. She's also a published author and has all kinds of other really cool things under her belt. How are you doing today, Jen?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm ready for spring, but well, this will be summer by the time this airs, but I'm ready for the warm weather to get here.
Yes. Well, and the clocks change, in another week or week and a half. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, me too. Awesome. So why don't you go ahead and get started and tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
All right. So my name, Jen Sankey, like we talked about a little bit. And I am, I am the weird little kid who grew up to be a weird adult. And there's a lot of things stuffed in there. So as a child, I was alone a lot, alone, my parents really they didn't really think parenting was like a thing that they enjoyed, so they just didn't. And so I was kind of alone a lot, a lot. And I was outside a lot doing, chasing Fae, making potions with sticks and rocks and all of that good stuff. And I also happened to have a couple extra friends hanging around that as I got older realized not everyone can see. Probably the most prevalent one is I always called her white lady, and just because she was dressed all in white. And she was somebody that is now I know was a spirit in one of the houses that we lived in. And she was really kind of my companion. So, as I started talking about her as a child and realizing that people didn't see her like I saw her, I really started to realize kind of how weird I was. And that, that was kind of the turning point too when I realized I need to kind of be quiet about those things. So it was that knowing that there was other things going on in the world that not everybody saw like I saw. And, as I grew a little bit older, probably around 12 or so, I got my first tarot deck. And really, I got interested in tarot just by watching movies and reading books. I would read anything I could get my hands on. If it had something to do metaphysical, scary horror thriller, I was all about it and reading it. And in a lot of those books, and even the movies, we have the craft and all of that. There's tarot. So I was really super interested, like, what is this? I want to see what I can do with this. So got my babysitting money, headed over to the local Spencer's and grabbed myself a deck. And, kind of from there, I really started focusing on the other part of what was going on around me. And that's when I started really working with the moon and figuring it all out. That's when I was like trying to read and trying to discover like what were these things. And at that point the internet wasn't a thing. And so going to the library, there was like three metaphysical books. There was like a Wicca book and a moon book, and I don't even remember what the other one was. And I just would check out those constantly and read them and try to figure out what was going on. What can I do about it? When I was 14, I was out on my own. And at that point, it almost like forced me to really hone in on my intuition, on my magic, on what I can do, because there were so many things out of my control at that point. So I had to find something to kind of bring it all in and bring myself into control, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
And by doing that, I really just kind of discovered these other gifts that were there. And just kind of as things progressed, I learned more. The internet started to open up a little bit, and I had more resources and that sort of thing. And I was a teen mom. I was mom at 17, so that was definitely a life altering experience.
I bet.
And as I just moved and grew into who I was, magic, the moon, tarot, all of those things were just a part of it. There was no separating it at that point. So that's kind of the gist of it, I suppose.
Awesome. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your book?
So my book, Manifesting by the Moon, A Guide to Lunar Magic, is just came out. And it's really about learning how to use the moon phases to manifest, learning about lunar magic in general. You can pick up this book if you've never done anything with lunar magic, manifesting, tarot, spell work, rituals. I have all of it kind of jam packed right in there for you. And it's all really easy, accessible. I try to not make it complicated. I am somebody, I didn't come from money. I did not have money for a very long time. So being practical is very important to me. And I really wanted to bring that out in this book by the different spells that I suggest, different correspondences, crystals, all of those things, they're easy to get. They're not, you're not going to have to hunt for this rare herb on Etsy to do one spell. It's all about being able to bring it into your life, make it a part of your life, learn how to manifest in the best way possible for you, and using the moon and the lunar phases as your guide to do so. So, this is something that I started doing myself. And then as I was doing tarot readings for others, I started kind of implementing some of the things with the lunar cycles and, with the different phases and the energy of the phases, just to kind of see how it would work for other people. And a lot of people really liked it because it's really a good way to focus your magic and focus your practice, focus your manifesting and how you want to bring in things into your life instead of just kind of willy-nilly wishing that it'll happen. And, I can be quite, spicy brain sometimes. So I like to side quest. So finding something that focuses me, that I know is always going to be there every month, like the moon, she's just going to go through her phases regardless. So no matter what, she's going to go through every single phase and that energy is going to be there. And I know that I could just tap into whichever phase it is and know, okay, well, it's the first quarter moon. It's probably a good time for a big action. What big action can I do? And if that's all I do during that cycle, that's fine. At least I did something, to kind of move that dial. So by bringing all of these exercises, there's over 120 exercises, spells, oh my gosh, meditations, activities, all those things in here to kind of just give you the whole basket full and kind of have you choose your own adventure.
Awesome. That's amazing. So I want to jump backwards a little bit. And so you saw spirits and fae and things like that when you were a kid. How did that you said you were alone a lot, but how did that affect your childhood? And did you really stop doing that? Did you just stop telling people? Like, what was that experience like?
So I really just that continues to this day. That has not gone away. But I think when I was younger, you don't really think about what you're saying if it's going to be kind of a weird thing or not, and as kids, and if you have kids, that they just come up and they say the craziest things and you're like, oh, you're so cute. But for me, in the environment that I was in, it wasn't super positive. So when I would say stuff like this, I would kind of get a little backlash. And that taught me really quickly that, okay, this is something I shouldn't be sharing. This is going to be my little secret, because I was also afraid that it would make it stop and make it go away, because these were kind of my friends, that's kind of what I had. And, it did teach me kind of real world stuff early on, which was unfortunate, but probably necessary. And, I definitely, it didn't go away. I just stopped talking about it. And then that was just kind of my own little thing.
Yeah, that's interesting because when I was younger, I would have dreams about past lives and I wouldn't see spirits, but I would sense them around me. I knew that those energies were there. And I'm going to share a secret about myself here because I was one of the weird kids too. But like one of the things that I teach people is about consciousness and how it literally is in everything. And even as a kid, I had stuffed animals. That was my thing. That was my jam. They were my friends. And I was always afraid to get rid of them because they had souls to me. They had feelings. I was afraid I was going to hurt their feelings. And this is like all the flowers, all the trees, like everything is alive to an extent. Everything has a consciousness, everything has energy. And so it's really interesting as a kid to have that perception that other people just don't really understand. And they're just like, oh, you're just being silly. You're just a kid, whatever.
Right.
But it really does have an effect on you when you're like, oh, well, am I crazy? Am I weird? Like, I don't think so.
Right, right. And you don't even think about it until that happens. And, I feel that unfortunately, I think across the board with everybody, we're so magical as children because we don't have that, that perception of this is weird and that's weird, but it is conditioned out of us as we get to adults. Some of us are able to hang on to it, but haven't there's been so many people that I've even done readings or energy work for, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like you have this energy, you have a gift, like, and they're just like, what are you talking about? And then the more you dive into it, you're like, when you were little, did you happen to do X, Y, and Z? Or did you happen to, sense these things happening before? And they're like, yeah, but I would tell my nana, I would tell my aunt, and they would tell me to cut it out, that it was ridiculous. So I just didn't bother anymore. And it's like, oh my gosh, like I do wish, that people would just give that more attention instead of just squashing it in children, because they just have that. They just have that light, and they have that. They just are so open to all of these things. And I think it's too bad. And it's just like, even going into teaching children how to meditate and how to, again, see the aliveness of everything, that like animism of all the things around them, because they already believe that, but like letting them know that it's okay to believe those things.
Right.
And so I do think, it is too bad, because then when these adults in your life as a child start telling you that, it makes you feel a certain way too. And it's putting that limiting belief, it's like setting that right up in your brain. And that happens with money, that happens with things like this. There's so many things. And even manifesting and bringing stuff in, and using your energy to kind of change the way things are for yourself. Like, we are so conditioned to like not believe that. So that's why it makes it so much harder, but it also makes it why it's so easy for people to fall prey to kind of these scams, so to speak, or these coaches that are like, oh, I can help you manifest everything you want in a week for 10K, and there are people out there who help and who are fantastic and great. But, we do see that happen a lot. So when they come to, the space of trying to learn how to manifest, trying to work with the moon, they are a little scared because they might have been burned before. So it's just giving them, again, that discernment to kind of tell the difference between what's real and what's not. And a lot of that is trusting their intuition.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is a shame because there are so many people out there like that who are like, oh yeah, for $12,000, I'll get rid of this energy that's stuck, that's preventing you from doing X, Y, or
Yes.
Z. And it's like, okay, well, that might be okay on the surface level, but it's not going to fix all of your problems. And people are
Yes.
so used to looking for that overnight fix that they're like, okay, I'll pay the money because you're going to fix all my problems. But that's not how it works. And
Right.
so I try to teach people about manifesting as well. And there's so many layers that go into it. I have a whole program, 14-step program, and the last one is manifesting, but you have to go through all these other steps before you can really open yourself up to attract these things in. And I mean, the opportunities are there, but you have to really be in the right mindset, clear your energy, be at a high vibration, and really know what it is you want and do it in a certain way that gives the universe the opportunity to meet you halfway, right? So it's really
Oh,
interesting. Yeah, it's interesting to see all of the different things out there. And I really hope that people start being more open-minded to this stuff, because you're right, as a kids we are kind of shut down by a lot. And like
absolutely.
I run into people all the time and they're like, oh, you know, I don't have any psychic abilities, I don't have any gifts. I'm like, no, you do, we all do. It's just that they're like, it's gone, I had it when I was a kid, it's gone. I'm like, it's not gone, you just kind of turn the light switch off. We just have to figure out a way to turn it back on, that's all.
Right, right. No, it's so true. And, even in my book and just talking to people, you have to do the work.
Yeah.
And, just like you said, it's so important because, as you're creating your intention at the new moon, and a part of that, and each moon phase has its own chapter in my book, and you have to go through the work. You're going to do some exercises. Is that really what you want? Why do you want it?
Mhm.
What do you expect the outcome to be? Because sometimes when you start diving into that, you realize it's actually not what you want.
Right.
And realizing that is important. Or as you're working through it, these little shadowy things are popping up. We can't just ignore that because that is taking up that energetic, space. And you need to clear that so that you can open that up to receive. And by doing the work, by doing the actions, so each moon phase, you're creating different actions based on whatever that lunar energy is to help bring in what it is that you want to manifest. And a lot of people, it's really funny. So Llewellyn is my publisher, and they had posted the book right before it came out, and doing all their marketing things. And somebody wrote in the comment, "Oh yeah, here I go. Just make a wish at the moon and I have everything I want." And it's like a troll comment. I get it. But I really had to think about the title of my book and having the word manifesting right smack in front of the book because it can give people the ick
Right.
because there's this new agey kind of whatever going on. And they're like, like we're talking about manifest in 3 days, do this, do that, and I really had to sit with that a little bit. But I want to, I want people to read the book and I want them to reframe it in their own minds. And even when they talk to other people and like, yeah, that it's not that quick, rich scheme. It's not going to happen that way for you because without, manifesting without action is just making a wish.
Mm-hmm.
And we can make a wish. And sometimes wishes come true. Wishes are great. But if you're not doing anything to kind of move that dial, then nothing, it's going to fall flat and it's nobody's fault but yours.
Mm-hmm.
And you can blame everybody you want. And I think a lot of times too, when people are, like you say, paying all this money for all these different things, like, oh yeah, solve this problem for me, solve this problem for me. That's a very shadowy aspect. Like they don't want to do the work. They don't want to deal with those shadow aspects. So they're going to pay someone else to do it. And then when it doesn't work, because subconsciously they know that it's not,
Right.
then they have someone to blame,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I
you
know.
know?
Oh, yeah. So let's talk about the moon phases real quick because I tell people all the time, I'm like, okay, guys, tomorrow's a full moon. Like, make sure you go out and make your moon water and blah, blah, blah. So uh, I'm just going to assume that most of the people who are listening might not know about the moon energies and stuff like that. So I don't want to overwhelm them. So let's start with just like the full moon and the new moon. What are those energies? What can you do during those periods of time? Can you explain moon water a little bit more for people so they don't think that I'm just crazy here by myself?
Of course, of course. So the new moon is the first phase of the moon cycle, and that's actually the moon is not visible in the sky at that point. But that is the beginning of the phase. So that is when we're creating our intention. That's when we're going to kind of start that moon manifesting cycle, start creating that manifesting map by what is it that you want, right? What is it that you want to bring in the next month? What do you want to change in your life? And it doesn't always have to be a material thing. It can be a new habit. It could be just clearing up your credit. It could be, you know what, this month I'm going to work on moving. I'm going to work on cleaning that closet out down the hall that I just usually just open it up, throw something in and shut the door real quick. So it's, abundance, wealth, all of that it's many different things. And also deciding what that means to you is really important. But with the new moon, what are you bringing in? So then we skip a couple moon phases and we get to that full moon. So the full moon traditionally is about release, about, kind of letting go what you don't need. And in my book, I really like to focus it more on balance. And each moon phase in the book has tarot cards associated with it, but the full moon has two. It's got the sun and the moon because I want that balance. I want to really focus on that balance when you're working through your manifestations. And that is, that's when it's big, bright in the sky, when we see it, you can't miss it at that point. And a lot of times the moon shines on different parts of yourself that you try to keep hidden. And so that is really what I like to focus on. So what part of yourself that you don't really like to show people during that full moon phase, maybe kind of peeking out a little bit. Can we dive into it a little bit? Can we see? Can we shift some energy? So that's really what I like to focus on, just really, really quickly. And as far as making moon water, You can actually make moon water at any days, but a great starting point is the full moon because again, you see it bright in the sky and you can use it for so many different things. So you're harnessing when you create moon water, you're harnessing the energy of that particular phase. So when we are doing the full moon, you kind of determine beforehand. So for me, this full moon, I'm going to create this moon water for balance, right? Or you can say, all right, I'm using it to help release or help to, maybe if I have a day where I just am feeling kind of sludgy and there's like a lot of like yuck energy around me to kind of clear that. You just fill up water and you also determine whether or not it's going to be something you can drink because you can if you want to do that and you want to make sure you use good clean drinking water or if you're going to use it for something else. A lot of people will put it in a spray bottle with some essential oils and kind of use it as a room spray or on themselves and that sort of thing. So it's really figuring out what you want to use it for, and then it kind of makes it easier to create it that way. And then you just stick it out on a windowsill overnight. The moon does not have to be directly hitting it as long as it's there and it'll absorb the energy it needs to absorb in the morning. Make sure you label it, your purpose for it, and then you have your moon water and then you can use it any way you want. So some people that use it for drinking, they'll maybe, drink it in the morning if they want to make sure if you're using it for balance, you have a sip in the morning to make sure your day is balanced, or you put it some in your tea or your coffee. Or, if you want to use it to make sure to, kind of release things that, kind of like just go move through your day with a nice flow and not let anything bother you too much. You can use it as a spray, like around you before you go into a situation, before you go into work, as you get out of work to kind of get rid of the yuck. There's just so many ways that you can utilize using moon water.
Yeah, I usually write down affirmations or things I want to manifest on a piece of paper and put it underneath so that it's
Hmm.
there because water holds memory. So I put it underneath the container as it's out in the moon and then I drink it afterwards.
Yes.
I also use it for other stuff, but that's usually what I use it for. But that's
Right.
one of the questions that I see people ask the most is, okay, well, does the moon light have to be touching it? Because some places, the moon doesn't shine like right on, or it's cloudy or whatever. And I also see
Right.
like, does it have to be in a clear container? And, do you have to set the affirmations ahead of time? So what's your kind of take on all of that? I know you touched on it briefly, but
Yeah. No, the moon, if you're lucky to kind of have that happen where it's if you have a window and the moon happens to be filtering through, yeah, throw it over there. Absolutely. But it might be a cloudy night. The moon might be full on like the other side of your house. So you're not technically, you can't really see it unless you go outside. You can put it outside if you want, depending on the time of year or, if you won't forget it. For me, putting it on a windowsill or on, even the kitchen counter near a window, that I remember it's there. And you don't have to, it doesn't need to be under the direct light. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. I would definitely recommend setting an intention, the affirmations, like you said, beforehand. I like to make sure tools that I'm using, they know what their job is.
Mhm.
And because it also helps you too to kind of make sure you're kind of integrating that energy as well. Because if you just set it out and then, you have it there, you're probably not going to use it. It's just going to sit on your desk for a month because you didn't really give it a reason. Like, why am I using this?
Mhm.
And I think it's important to kind of set an intention for it. Some people will put crystals around it as well. Sometimes I'll take a bowl of crystals and just set it on top just to kind of give it an extra little boost. You can do that as well. But I do think that you should definitely give it its job before putting it out.
One of the other things that I see a lot is like some people will be like, "Oh, I missed the full moon," and I've seen some people talk about like the energy being still being there like the day before or the day after. What are your thoughts on that?
The energy of the moons, especially the bigger moons, the new moon, the full moon, that sort of thing. You have 3 days. You have 3 days to do it. So just go ahead and do that, and put it out. And if you're feeling really called to do that, absolutely set your intention and stick it out the next night. And it's fine. It's going to be just as strong because you're giving it that job, you're setting that intention for it, and the moon is recognizing that. So it's going to help you out. She's there to help out. So she'll definitely help you out with that. But don't worry so much. If it's like a week after, yeah, probably not. And we're going to be getting into kind of more of the waning phases. So then that energy is going to pick up in that moon water. But you have a couple days, so definitely if you weren't able to that one night, the first night, second night, throw it out. Totally fine.
Okay, awesome. And what about eclipses? What's going on with those?
So I actually just made a whole post about eclipses because we're kind of in eclipse, season right now, and we have one coming up in a couple days. This is a hot topic. And it's always very interesting to see everyone's take on it. For me, I like to use the analogy of like an old radio. So this season, you kind of have, the eclipse seasons going on. We have eclipses going on. Imagine the eclipse like an old radio. So what it does is it's turning the energy up of whatever that full moon, new moon is. And so that's all it's doing. It's turning that energy up. And you absolutely can make the choice to work with it or not. I always say try it at least once, see how it feels. And I kind of go along with everything with that, because sometimes you don't think you're going to like it, but then you do. So it's always like try it out and see. The energy is going to be a little bit louder. You can look at the zodiac sign, what zodiac that is. Okay, so those traits of that zodiac sign, all that's going to be a little bit more amplified. What can I do with that energy? Is that an energy I even want to work with? If it's like a Pisces eclipse energy. Okay. Pisces eclipse energy. I'm thinking faster than I'm talking right now. Then that's going to be heightened emotions. That there might be some shadowy things that pop up. Do you want to work with that? You have that choice to work with it or not. And if you're like, you know what, I'm going to bow out of this one, that's totally fine. You can just go ahead and work with the next eclipse energy. But don't be afraid of it. People say, oh, it's very chaotic and it's going to mess everything up and everything's going to be crazy. No, it's not. Eclipses, we know when the eclipses are going to happen, just like we know when all the moon phases are going to happen. You can prepare for it. And so it's not like you're going to wake up and, oh my God, it's an eclipse and everything's dooming and the world's smoking and all of that. You know what? It's doing that anyway. So you might as well take the energy and work with it, right? Like you might as well see what you can do with it. So don't be afraid to work with eclipse energy. Like I said, try it out. If it's for you, it's not. If it's for you, great. If not, great. That's fine. But I also think that scaring people it's not nice. It's not a good thing, and if it doesn't work for you, fine, but don't scare other people. Don't make them think that their world's going to crash and burn if they try it out. So I think it's always good to be encouraging and to, give support and give, again, reading and resources and all of those things. I have a whole chapter on eclipses in my book and working with, different moons. So it's definitely, I think it's worth a shot. Why not?
I agree. I completely agree. And the whole spreading fear thing, I mean, like the people in this community, we're supposed to be lifting each other up. We're supposed to be spreading correct information, not misinformation. And that includes spreading fear because we already have such a stigma and such a hurdle that we have to get over with all of the non-believers and the people who are just, closed-minded and still asleep. We don't want to, interfere with each other doing things that, yeah, it might not work for you, but it might work for somebody else. Like give them a chance. Like let them just try it out.
Right, right. And it just goes back to if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. And you know what? Your thumb works very good. Keep scrolling. And that itself is magical, to be able to kind of control that. And I think it's so hard right now because we have so much information on social media and this one says this and this one says that, where, and I'm always going to direct people back to books. back to people and resources and those sort of just you don't listen to every reel that you see. And if something is making you question it, you know what? That's awesome. Investigate it, look into it, because, even in my book, the back of the book, there's 7 pages of citations. That means there's 7 pages worth of books, different academic websites, science books that I researched to make sure that my information was accurate. And then my publisher went and fact checked every single one of those. So I don't think people realize that.
Mhm.
And, I'm going to say citations are the bane of my existence. That is not the fun part of writing a book, let me tell
No,
you.
it's not. No, it's
But
not.
they're there for a reason, and they're there to let you know, yes, this was fact checked. This is accurate information, so that you know that you can source this, you can use this. It's not just some willy-nilly TikTok of somebody, with a floating background telling you that this is true or this is going to happen or that's going to happen. So definitely, take the time to do your research, to look into it, to learn, to understand how it feels in your body, and go from there.
Absolutely. I always tell people, cite your sources. When they tell me something, I'm like, cite your sources. Tell me where you
Yes.
found that. And Wikipedia is not a credible source. I'm sorry. It's
No, it is not.
first thing I learned in
It's
college. No.
no, it is not. And, some people they will fight that. They will stand on that hill. And I'm like, friends, look at that and then look at it in a week and see how all that information just changed.
Right, exactly.
And, it's definitely, and if you don't want to take the time to learn about yourself, learn about your energy, learn about the moon phases, about manifesting, about taking aligned action and all of those things, then you're not ready.
Hmm.
You're not ready. And don't blame the universe, don't blame all of these other things for it not working.
Right.
And I think that's a big part of it is you have to take accountability. You
Hmm.
have to know, as you're working through these things, even you start an intention at the beginning of that new moon cycle and you get halfway through and you're getting to that full moon and you're seeing where your balance is and it's feeling a little wonky because you're realizing, you know what? I don't really want this anymore. I need to reframe this. I need to redo this. There's nothing wrong with that. Do that and keep moving on. But also realize that that means that you're evolving, you're growing, you're shedding an old identity to move into something bigger and better. And that's the whole point, right? We always want to move into something bigger and better.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing. I always tell people, healthy skepticism is amazing. Like, I'll question everything, literally question
Mhm.
everything and use your discernment and trust your intuition. Like you said, if something seems wonky, if something doesn't sit right with you, find out why and go look it
Right,
up because one person's truth might not be yours, and that's okay. You need to
right.
figure out what works for you because that's going to look different for everybody.
Yes, no, absolutely. I mean, everybody's perspective is different, everybody's life experience is different. And, it's great to talk to people and get and hear those experiences and see how they maybe dealt with a situation and all of that. And it might not even be something that you'd ever do in a million years, but you may be talking to somebody a year from now and they bring up a certain thing and you're like, oh my gosh, you know what? Somebody I know, they were talking about how they did XYZ and it worked great for them.
Mhm.
So by being open and receptive doesn't mean that you have to take everything and do it.
Right.
It's just, again, that receiving. And, your subconscious may store something away for a reason because it might not even be for you. It
Right.
might be for somebody else down the road.
Absolutely. Awesome. So if somebody wants to find your book or, get a tarot reading from you or whatever other services you provide, how would they find you?
So the easiest thing to do is just Google Jen Sankey. I'm on all the things. Stardust Wanderer Tarot as well. I play a lot on Instagram. I'm really kind of a little bit of everywhere. My website is stardustwanderertarot.com. So yes, I'm very, very easy to find.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today. It was an absolute pleasure to speak with you. This was a great conversation.
It was. Thanks for having me.
If something in today's episode hit a little too close to home, if you've done the work and something still won't move, I want you to look into astral surgery. It's precision energy work that goes where standard clearing can't reach. One session, full report, real results. Everything you need is at divineascensionco.com. You deserve to be free of what was never yours to carry.